Okay, it's August the 27th, 2017, and Mom is going to read the parts of the best little Christmas pageant ever. And here we have a green bean with Gemma's teeth marks on it that we're keeping forever. It's from the McGowan garden. Okay, Mom, give it a shot.
Ready?
Yeah.
The Herdmans were absolutely the worst kids in the history of the world. They lied and stole and smoked cigars, even the girls, and talked dirty and hit little kids and cussed their teachers and took the name of the Lord in vain and set fire to Fred Shoemaker's old broken down tool house. The tool house burned right down to the ground, and I think that surprised the Herdmans. They set fire to things all the time, but that was the first time they managed to burn down a whole building. I guess it was an accident. I don't suppose they woke up that morning and said to each other, "Let's go burn down Fred Shoemaker's tool house." But they did, and after all, it was a Saturday, and not much was going on. It was a terrific fire. 2 engines and 2 police cars and all the volunteer firemen and 5 dozen donuts sent up from the tasty lunch diner. The donuts were supposed to be for the firemen, but by the time they got the fire out, the donuts were all gone. The Herdmans got them, and what they couldn't eat, they stuffed in their pockets and down the front of their shirts. You could actually see donuts all around Ollie Herdman's middle. I couldn't understand why the Herdmans were hanging around the scene of the crime. Everybody knew the whole thing was their fault, and you'd think they'd have the brains to get out of sight. One fireman even collared Claude Herdman and said, "Did you kids start this fire smoking cigars in that tool house?" But Claude just said, "Oh, we weren't smoking cigars." And they weren't. They were playing with Leroy Herdman's young Einstein chemistry set, which they stole from the hardware store. And that's how they started the fire. Leroy said so. We mixed all the little powders together and poured lighter fluid around on them and set fire to the lighter fluid. We wanted to see if the chemistry set was any good. Any other kid, even a mean kid, would have been a little bit worried if he stole $4.95 worth of something and then burned down a building with it. But Leroy was just mad because the chemistry set got burned up along with everything else before he had a chance to make 1 or 2 bombs. The fire chief got us all together. There were 15 or 20 kids standing around watching the fire and gave us a little talk about playing with matches and kerosene and dangerous things like that. "I don't see that's what happened here," he told us. "I don't know what happened here, but that could have been it, and you see the result. So let this be a good lesson to you boys and girls." Of course, it was a great lesson to the Herdmans. They learned that whenever there is a fire, there will be free donuts sooner or later. I guess things would have been different if they had burned down, say, the Second Presbyterian Church instead of the tool house. But the tool house was about ready to fall down anyway. All the neighbors had pestered Mr. Shoemaker to do something about it because it looked so awful and was sure to bring rats. So everybody said the fire was a blessing in disguise, and even Mr. Shoemaker said it was a relief. My father said it was the only good thing that the Herdmans ever did, and if they'd known it was a good thing, they wouldn't have done it at all. They would have set fire to something else or somebody. They were just so all-round awful, you could hardly believe they were real. Ralph, Imogene, Leroy, Claude, Ollie, and Gladys. 6 skinny, stringy-haired kids, all alike except for being different sizes and having different black and blue places where they had conked each other. They lived over a garage at the bottom of Spront Hill. Nobody used the garage anymore, but the herdsmen used to bang the door up and down just as fast as they could and try to squash one another. That was their idea of a game. Where other people had grass in their front yard, the herdsmen had rocks. Where other people had geranium bushes, the herdsmen had poison ivy. There was no sign in the yard that said, there also was a sign in the yard that said, "Beware of the cat." New kids always laughed about that until they got a look at the cat. It was the meanest looking animal you ever saw. It had one short leg and a broken tail and one missing eye. And the mailman couldn't deliver anything to the herdsman because of it. "I don't think it's a regular cat at all," the mailman told my father. "I think those kids went in the hills and caught themselves a bobcat." "Oh, I don't think you can tame a wild bobcat," my father said. "Well, I'm sure you can't," said the mailman. "They'll never try to tame it. They'll just try to make it wilder than it was to begin with." If that was the plan, it worked. The cat would attack anything it could see out of its one eye. One day, Claude Herdman emptied the whole first grade in 3 minutes flat when he took the cat to show and tell. He didn't feed it for 2 days, so it was already mad. Then he carried it to school in a box, and when he opened the box, the cat shot out right straight up in the air, people said. It came down on the top blackboard ledge and clawed 4 big long scratches all the way down to the blackboard. Then it just tore around all over the place, scratching little kids and shedding fur and scattering books and papers everywhere. The teacher, Miss Brandel, yelled for everybody to run out in the hall, and she pulled a coat over her head and grabbed a broom and tried to corner the cat. But of course she couldn't see with a coat over her head, so she just ran up and down the aisle hollering, "Here, kitty," and smacking the broom whenever the cat hissed back. She knocked over the Happy Family dollhouse and the globe of the world and broke the aquarium full of 20 gallons of water and about 65 goldfish. All the time she kept yelling for Claude to come and catch his cat. But Claude had gone out in the hall with the rest of the class. Later, when Miss Brandel was slapping Band-Aids on everybody who would show her any blood, she asked Claude why in the world he didn't come and get his cat under control. "Well, you told us to go out in the hall," Claude said, just as if he were any kind of ordinary first grader who did what teacher said to do. The cat settled down a little bit once it got something to eat. Most of the goldfish and Ramona's 2 pet mice that she brought for show and tell. Ramona cried and carried on so, "I can't even bury them," she said, that they sent her home. The room was a wreck. Broken glass and papers, puddles of water and dead goldfish everywhere. Miss Brandel was sort of a wreck too, and most of the first graders were hysterical, so somebody took them outdoors and let them have recess for the rest of the day. Claude took the cat home, and after that was a rule you can't bring anything alive to show and tell. The herdsmen moved from grade to grade through the Woodrow Wilson School like those American fish that strip your bones clean in 3 minutes flat, was just about what they did to one teacher after another. But they never got kept back in a grade. When it was time for Claude Herdsman to go to 2nd grade, he didn't know his ABCs, or numbers, or colors, or shapes, or his 3 bears, or how to get along with anybody. But Miss Brandell passed him anyway. For one thing, she knew she'd have Ollie Herdman the next year. One thing about the herdsmans, there was always another one coming along, and no teacher was crazy enough to let herself in for 2 of them at once. I was always in the same grade with Imogene Herdman, and what I did was stay out of her way. It wasn't easy to stay out of her way. You couldn't do it if you were very pretty, or very ugly, or very smart, or very dumb, or had anything unusual about you, like red hair or double-jointed thumbs. But if you were sort of a medium kid like me and kept your mouth shut when the teacher said, "Who can name all 50 states?" you had a pretty good chance to stay clear of Imogene. As far as anyone could tell, Imogene was just like the rest of the herdsmen. She never learned anything either, except dirty words and secrets about everybody. Twice a year we had to go to the health room to get weighed and measured, and Imogene always managed to find out exactly what everybody weighed. Sometimes she'd hang around waiting for the nurse, Miss Hempsel, to give her a Band-Aid. Sometimes she would sneak behind the curtain where she kept a folding cot and just stay there the whole time. Or they kept a folding cot and stay there the whole time with one eye on the scales. "Why are you still here, Imogene?" Miss Hempel said one day. "You can go back to your room." "I think you better look and see if I've got what Ollie has." "What does Ollie have?" Imogene shrugged. We don't know. Red spots all over." Miss Hempel looked at her. "What did the doctor say?" "Oh, we didn't have a doctor." Imogene began scrunching her back up and down against the medicine cabinet. "Oh, does Ollie have a fever? Is he in bed?" "No, he's in 1st grade." "Right now?" Miss Hempel said. "Why, he shouldn't be in school with spots. It could be measles or chicken pox, any number of courageous things." "What are you doing?" "Scratching my back," Imogene said. "Boy, do I itch." The rest of you boys and girls